I'm still testing positive for over 10 days, right? And I have no symptoms after like day 2. I was fine, right?
Oh wow, lucky
Yeah,
you.
but I got the vaccine. He did not, and he tests negative. But you would think that like he got hit by a car with how he's acting, like, and that he's still like limping it off with like like spitting all the time. He's coughing up a lung, and it's like, God damn, man. So it's like, I mean, you have the autonomy to make you know whatever decision you want about your body, I guess.
hmm
But at the same
That's how
time,
I was though.
you mean you?
When I had
Yeah.
COVID and I had the
Uh huh.
vaccine, I was a mess for like two
Oh yeah.
weeks.
Huh.
Yeah, and Amanda had it and she was fine for like the same as you. She was fine for after like 2 days, and then I was. Yeah, actually, she didn't even get the vaccine. She was fine.
Oh.
And I had this cough for like 6 months,
Well,
and I still.
huh.
There have been studies where people get memory loss from COVID, and I'm pretty sure I have that.
Yeah. I don't even remember who you are, so like, yeah,
Yeah,
so it's probably true. So, no, but
it's crazy though.
yeah, but like, so I shook like a dog shitting razor blades for like a day, like just
hmm
fever and just like full blown delirium sort of thing. Right. The second day, my muscles hurt from like convulsing for basically a day, and then the
hmm
next day I was just a little bit weak, but I was fine. Yeah.
Nice. Not
It's
too
so
bad.
weird how it's just so contrasting in like everybody.
It is weird because even if people gain the vaccine, not getting the vaccine, they can have the same symptoms and go through the same
Yeah,
stuff. And there's no really rhyme or reason. It's just basically someone's immune system and how they handle it.
pretty much. So
Which is crazy. I have a shitty immune system.
Yeah. But I also heard that I don't know. I mean, basically all of my readings from the COVID and how it affects people was just um, not good information. It was just like, oh, we think this could be it with like blood types and how it affects someone's
well, I
uh,
mean
COVID. But
that's not without merit though, because like most people don't know where blood types come from, but it has to do with what antibodies are in your system, right? So
yeah,
like that
Mhm.
kind of makes sense to some degree when you think about it, but also I'm sure that like let's just say that I'm A positive. I don't even remember what I am,
yeah.
but it's
Are you B negative? Because Amanda's B negative,
I honestly don't know. I'd have to look it
and
up.
I'm positive. I forget what I
Yeah.
am, but let's say it affects me more and it doesn't affect B negative people as much. That would have some merit to
Well,
it.
yeah, I mean, it very well could. Like, if you think about it, right? Like, it could be that you
Yeah.
have an antibody, right? Because like
Negative.
blood type is more like lumping you into a generic form. Because even if you got a blood transfusion from somebody with, you said you're B positive, right? What?
Yeah,
Uh,
sure. I
yeah.
forget what I exactly, but let's just say I'm B
Even
positive.
if you had B positive blood, there's still a chance that during a transfusion, your body will reject that blood, even if it's from somebody with B positive, or even if you got blood from somebody who's O
Hmm.
negative, which is like the universal donor, right?
Yeah,
So, uh, but
I think I am no negative.
are you
I
are you
think I'm a
really?
universal donor.
Well, that would mean that you lack
Yeah, I think I'm
like
gonna.
antibodies. Um, it's not necessarily a bad thing because, like, on the adverse side of things, it could be that somebody has an antibody that just goes ham when like they get infected with COVID. But either way, it's more
Yeah.
like a generic classification, if that makes
hmm
sense. So it
Yeah.
doesn't really explain anything, but it would be if you could determine that, which I'm sure other people have, and I'm sure that because nothing's been out in the news or anything like that, that it's probably not related to blood type, at least blood type alone. Um,
Yeah. Probably not.
but
Only science knows. And science. What does science
I don't
know?
know. I bested.
Are we doing an episode on
We
science?
probably should. We can talk about Galileo and how he was just like, if I remember right, he was a spoiled rich boy. No, it wasn't Galileo. Sorry, I'm thinking of Newton. He was a spoiled rich boy who just He had money, and he's like, "Fuck it, I want to see how far this ball goes if we throw it down a ramp consistently."
Yeah. And by the way, welcome to Ethica America, where we talk about balls going down ramps
We talk about all sorts of things that are probably unrelated to how we got here,
and what we're doing
and
um,
stuff.
yeah.
Got him good. Confuse the viewership. That's step one of the plan.
Yeah, exactly. Keep him coming back for answers to questions we never answer.
I'm your host, Turd Ferguson.
And I'm Aaron.
I'm not really Turd Ferguson. I'm Ryan. I lied.
Oh.
And that's probably not ethical to you or America.
I mean, it depends. Some lies people think are ethical.
And I did it with the intention of hurting people.
Oh, then yeah, that's unethical.
Yeah.
If I feel like if you lie for the greater good, you're good.
Oh no, I didn't do that.
Like, like, did you hear about that thing with the government lying about aliens for years and years and years, and then suddenly they're like, "Oh yeah, aliens
I did
exist."
hear about
and
that.
Then people
people
were like,
people are like, wait, so we had a plague last year, right? We had an insurrection. I don't know that I can handle the fact that aliens probably exist now.
Yeah. So I've also have like this weird theory on the existence of aliens, but like I just assumed that aliens do exist, but I also thought that the chances of us encountering an alien would be like astronomically impossible.
Oh yeah,
just because the universe is just so big.
Well, I mean, you're basing all that off of probability, which I don't think we've actually ever talked about this, but that's exactly how I feel. Is because it's like I know that with my limited knowledge, though I know a fair amount about a lot of things, but with my limited knowledge, that travel at the speed of light is damn near impossible. I'm not saying it's fully impossible, but that any planet within our reach is at least like hundreds of light years away. So
this was my thought. All right. And this was I'm basing it off of like the Earth and how it's like 7 points whatever billion years old, and the universe is like 15 billion years old. So
wait, the universe can't be 7 point something billion years old. It can't be, because like written fact only goes back to like 6,000 BCE, and like you're right. And like the dinosaurs aren't real.
Yeah, you're right. Never mind. Everything is like 2,000 years old.
I don't even think it's 2,000 years old. I think that's a lie that corporate America wants to keep you in. But I'm sorry, I was just derailing it for a joke, and that took it a little bit too far. So go ahead.
I understand. So the universe is actually, according to the studies author, to a recent study, the universe is 26.7 billion years old, which was the previous estimate was 13 points.
Well, I mean, that's the existence of the universe. The existence of Earth is 4.5 billion years old, according to National Geographic. Anyhow,
and it took us 4.5 billion years to get to this point where we are now,
where we can fart and have insurrections whenever we want. Nobody can tell us how to live our life.
It's not looking great.
I mean,
but that means that we've had like an extra, couple billion years for another civilization to go. So in that time, we could a civilization could have thrived, or it could have, been like us, where they're still putzing around with arguing about, invisible money, or they could have thrived and had a scientific discoveries and interstellar travel.
Man. Have you ever played the Horizon series of games, like Horizon Zero Dawn or Horizon Forbidden West? Oh man, like really, really good plot to those games, by the way. But it
Yeah.
kind of, what you're talking about kind of goes along with this.
Right.
You can go on. So
But basically, the odds of like a civilization in about our lifetime could do what they do to travel the universe and things like that.
Yeah.
But also, it's also known that the Earth has a set lifetime based off the sun, because the sun will explode and destroy the Earth, and who knows if we'll get off Earth in that
no,
time.
probably not.
Based off our track record, probably
Yeah.
not. So imagine how many civilizations in the universe are just like us that never left Earth or their Earth to travel.
Well,
So chances of
you're
that
also assuming, by the
pretty
way,
good.
that
I am.
everybody would leave Earth or stay on Earth, when it would probably be a split
Yeah.
population where some people would leave Earth and some people would stay
Yeah.
on Earth. It's not so polarizing, I guess is all I'm trying to tell you.
True. And you could also just, everyone could just get on a spaceship and just, leave Earth and then travel the solar system. I guess that's a possibility as well.
Oh, man.
But I guess my most thought is, I wonder how many civilizations before this, in the 26.7 billion years of its existence, have had civilizations that just died due to the sun exploding, and they just couldn't handle that.
How long ago did you say? How many billions of years ago?
26.7 billion years of the age of the universe. So
That can't be right.
I don't know.
The age
That's
of
just
the
what Google
universe.
says, age of the universe.
Well, no, the Big Bang was 13.8 billion years ago, and like time wouldn't be created until the Big Bang event.
Maybe the Big Bang has changed from 13.7 billion years to 26.7.
I mean, I'm looking at the Victoria University of Wellington, New Zealand's website. Wikipedia corroborates it. Quora is corroborating it. So let me look. Is the universe? It says 13.7 billion years ago the universe was created.
Yeah, most of all the things that I have read is about 13.
Oh.
I guess there's just this new study done.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I wouldn't know anything about
July
that.
17th,
I was just
2023.
Your numbers didn't make sense to me for a minute. Not to say you're wrong or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, we could just, I like the assumption of 13.7 just because that's been the going thing for as long as I've known.
And that,
I mean, this study just came out July 17th of 2023, so about 2 months ago.
And 13.8 billion years ago, when the Big Bang happened, that actually kind of tracks if you think about it, because that's literally 100 million years difference in there where things could kind of settle out. You know what I'm saying? But
right.
But I guess my point is that, so Big Bang happened 13.8 billion years ago. The formation of Earth happened 4.5 billion years ago, right? But time and the universe are infinitely expanding. So you're asking how many universes how many planets that could sustain life, how many colonies, basically.
Yeah.
When, everything's spreading out at the speed of light. But you're talking specifically from the difference between 4.5 versus 13.8, which we'll just say roughly 9, right? 9.5, something like that.
Yeah.
In 9 billion years, what could have happened? And we're only 4.5 billion years old. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So the answer would be there's an infinite amount of colonies out there from a probability standpoint, but they probably can't reach us.
Right. If we are thinking of like a probability of, I guess given enough time, there'll be an infinite amount of societies. But I'm also under the impression that only it is kind of weird when we talk about infinity, because
it doesn't actually exist.
When we put infinity into anything, they're given enough time, an infinite number of things will exist.
So you want to hear something funny too? And this might like confuse some of our listeners who aren't great at math. So what's 2 divided by 1?
2.
What's 3 divided by 1?
3.
So what's 2 divided by 2?
1.
What's 3 divided by 2?
Oh, geez.
Well, it's like 1 and 1.5. So,
Yeah, 1.5.
So we can agree that as the numerator, that top digit goes up, right? In every aspect, right? If the bottom number stays the same, then, well, I guess that's not always true. But basically, there are different levels of infinity, is I guess what I'm trying to say. Because
Yeah.
2 divided by 0 versus 3 divided by 0, right? 2 divided by 0 will be less than 3 divided by 0, but they're both technically infinity.
Yeah.
So there are different levels of infinity, which, I mean, really what that tells us is that somewhere our philosophy of numbers is incorrect or skewed in some way. But
what I learned with infinity is numbers are weird. I like to think of the hotel with an infinite number of rooms.
Yeah.
Yeah. I forget what that hotel's called.
Hotel California.
Probably.
You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave. And then they have to keep adding rooms, which is annoying when you're waiting for your room. And they're like, it's under construction.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay.
The Hilbert's paradox of the Grand Hotel imagines a hypothetical hotel with rooms numbered 1, 2, 3 with no upper limit, and then you just add a thing.
It's like n plus
and
1
add a room
at some point.
Yeah. There's and then there's like a thing where it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on, so on, so on. But then there's another thing where there's a different number where you just have more rooms. It's kind of like that one thing we were just talking about.
How much staffing would you need for a hotel like that? Like 3 guys, probably, maybe 4.
You just have one dude at the check-in where they just go, hey, I need a room. And they go, all right, here you go. Here's your key. And then...
Yeah, but who cleans the rooms? Well, it's Hotel California. They can check out anytime they like, but they can never leave. But at a certain point, they're going to run out of money and corporate.
The good thing about a hotel with an infinite number of rooms is you never have to clean a room.
Oh, because they can just transfer rooms.
Yeah,
that's a good point, Aaron. I never thought about that.
Yeah.
But is it like
so rock and roll just loves it because they just trash every room they go to, and they're just like, who cares? We just have an
TVs and
infinite
beds
number of
for every
rooms.
room, though?
Yeah,
I assume
the electric bill is weird too, because how do you even like calculate infinite number of rooms?
It's got its own fusion reactor. It doesn't matter.
It kind of has to at that point.
Like you'd run out of space at a certain point unless you like build this hotel in a pocket universe.
Basically, it's a TARDIS.
Okay. Everybody just enters the phone booth and then enters into their room from there, which is why there's only one guy.
Yeah.
Because you only need one guy on the other end of the phone.
Yeah, exactly.
Just solve Blue's Clues, man.
But where would they park though?
They don't need to park. They can't leave. They can park wherever they want. We just established Hotel California rules.
Yeah.
Though maybe they're allowed to go to the parking lot.
Yeah. That was one of the things that bothered me about this paradox. It's like, okay, so you have an infinite number of people going into this room. Well, where are they parking? That's the paradox that I want to ask about.
They're just delivered on a conveyor belt. There was a do or die situation, and we're just dealing with the 1% that's constantly fed to this hotel. I mean, really, when you think about it, it sounds like the guy's probably going to try to equate it to souls in heaven or something like that. But
yeah,
I have no idea. I've never heard of this paradox, but I'm not a philosophy major, so.
Yeah, I mean, I've only heard of it because we talked about it in, I forget where we talked about it, in probably metaphysics.
Yeah.
We talked about infinity.
Yeah.
But I don't know. But that was a weird digression from are we talking
We're
about?
talking about the philosophy of law today. Why laws
Oh
exist.
man, are we?
Yeah. I
Jeez.
mean, and that can really extend to like the philosophy of government, which I mean, I guess like the
Yeah.
best place to start with this would be like, why do we even need laws, Aaron? Like, why do we even need a government in general? Because I mean, in order to
I
have a
mean,
law, you would have to have a government, right? Some,
tech.
I guess
I
technically
don't think
not.
that's true.
Yeah,
I think you could have a small society. Let's say, like, we're back in, I don't know,
Mesopotamia.
the creation of people back in 4 billion years ago when there weren't people, but
I mean,
go forward a little bit before when we actually develop people at some
well,
point.
I mean that would be the
Then there's
cradle of
laws of
life with
nature.
like Mesopotamia. So let's say that we're in the
Yeah.
Infinite Hotel in Mesopotamia. And
I was actually gonna go to like just like apes and how they have like their own set of like or wolves. Wolves have their own kind of rules where they follow, where there's a pack and then you have a pack leader, and the older wolves actually lead the pack because they're setting the pace, and then the strongest wolves are in the back to protect
well,
the
but
herd. And then,
why would you even want to be
but I
part
mean,
of the
that's
pack?
a law for safety, I imagine.
Yeah.
But had hunter gatherers, I assume, had some sort of rules that they went by just so to have safety.
Well, I
But
mean,
then,
why would you? If you're in a well-established group, why would you even bother like inviting somebody into that group? I guess I'm just trying to get to the root of this. Like, so I
oh, I wouldn't.
you wouldn't.
I like, yeah, I'm just gonna pretend I'm in like D&D where I have my core set of group, and
You have your
someone's like,
set of
"Oh,
four
hey, I want to
guys,
join you."
yeah, and
Yeah,
that,
and I'm like, "I don't trust
yeah,
you. You're gonna pass a lot of
yeah,
tests. What's your persuasion?"
yeah, and then they get involved in the group. God, it's just like fucking Preston Garvey from Fallout 4. Like he's just like, our
Yeah,
group needs your help, and it's like, how old is your
yeah,
fucking? Why am I the only person doing anything for your group? You
yeah.
must pass this trial to become part of our group. And then eventually you do so many quests for him that he's like, well, I don't want to be group leader of this group anymore. The pad is
Mhm.
passed on to you, and it's like, no, Preston, I just want to go out and shoot shit with my gun. Well, that's too bad because the Independence Men are. It's not the Minutemen. That's what it is. The
Yeah,
Minutemen.
the Minutemen.
They're under your lead now. So long, but the Minutemen need your help. And it's like, God damn it, Preston Garvey, shoot you right in the fucking
Yep,
head. I actually did try to blow him up in the
exactly.
game because he annoyed me so much. Because he's like,
He did too.
he's very devious because he's like, oh man, this is your group now, but the Minutemen need your help, and it's like you can't both be the not leader and the leader, dude. Like what the fuck is your
Mhm.
issue? Fucking Preston Garvey. I actually have a D&D camp. I've told you about my D&D idea with
Yeah.
him, where like everybody is just sadder for ever having met him.
I actually did not like that Fallout because I could never clear my quest log
Yeah,
because I always have dailies.
yeah.
And that's when like, oh, okay, I can't play this game anymore. I can't actually complete every quest. I have these dailies that will never go away.
I got to the point where I have to choose a side in one direction or another, and I'm like,
yeah, I got there too.
well, and then I was like, nah, man, like y'all suck. Like I want an independent Vegas ending. I don't want to be part of the Minutemen at all. So like this is where the game ends for me.
Yeah. Yeah, that was my I didn't want to pick any side. They all were terrible.
Right? It's like the Brotherhood of Steel was like, oh, we'll crush everybody with our big arms and stuff. And it's like, I stole Maximus's cape, I think, at some point. I don't even remember if I actually did that. I think that was my next step was I was going to steal a bunch of shit from the Brotherhood of Steel.
Mhm.
And then I just stopped because I'm like, nah, man, because like, what's the point of being pretty much invincible if, you know, I'm not going to play this anymore. So
Yeah.
did all this,
I mean,
did all,
Fallout's a good example of philosophy of law because you have these little societies and they kind of have their own rules and regulations.
but yeah, no, you're absolutely right that Fallout does. It certainly does kind of line up with that idea of philosophy of law. But
Yeah.
like,
Where every group's just like trying to guide the behavior of your
right,
character to what they want you to
right,
do. And that's what law is basically there for. It's just to guide the behavior of whatever they think is socially acceptable.
right, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, in the case of Fallout 4, it was really annoying, but like the idea that like a society is out there. Let's say that let's take you back to caveman times, right?
Yeah.
And let's say that somebody's like, you run across a group of 8 people, you've been starving for days, right? But for some reason, you have a bunch of firewood or some resource. It
Mhm.
doesn't really even matter what. Maybe you just have information about where water is, and this group's been, out navigating the wilderness, and you stumble across them. The first thing is, why would somebody want to join that group? And why would that group want somebody to join them, right? So it
Yeah.
must be mutually beneficial to some degree, right? But once you're
Mhm.
part of that group, they basically there just need to be some ground rules, right? It's like, hey, so just so you
Yeah.
know, we don't murder people here, and that's pretty much our only rule. Like, you'll contribute
Mhm.
and you won't murder any of us, and we won't
Yeah.
murder you back. Also, don't
Exactly.
fuck that dude's wife. So there's one woman in the tribe. That's that dude's. He's our leader, and he's fucking crazy. And then you kill him, and then that's how Fallout 4 goes for me. Just pure chaos.
And that's how D&D works too. You got one leader in the goblin camp and they lead everything, and you don't mess with that person. And if you do, you have to kill every goblin, and it's just a lot of work. It's just
I don't.
so many initiatives to keep track of, and then
That's not
at the
even.
end of the day,
That's not even how my D&D games go. But I'm not like, my D&D games are more like somebody tries to kill the Goblin King. It's like, well, most of these guys probably didn't like the asshole anyways, so like they're just gonna
yeah,
stand back and watch and see how this plays out. A couple guys maybe.
yeah.
You get the idea.
And that actually might happen too in this environment where someone's like, you know what, that dude's crazy and an asshole. So let's just kill him,
Yeah.
and then we can try forming another group without that asshole guy.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense.
And this is how insurrections start.
Full circle.
Yeah, I mean, kinda. I mean, that's how a lot of things happen. Is there's a guy in charge, and he's a real asshole. So there's an uprising, and then there's insurrection, and then someone else takes over, or it's another government, and they bring over their army, and they take over.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what colonizations is.
That is exactly what colonizing is like. It's like you got this one
So
asshole who's like, I don't want to pay for this much labor. It'd be cheaper if they just worked for free. So
yeah, or it's even simpler than that. Like, I don't want to pay taxes on tea from a lady that's like, across the ocean. So we're just not, and they're gonna come over here with their bad pistols, and
I rolled
we're
to
just gonna
seduce the
shoot them.
lady across the ocean.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, she smells like chai. I don't want this anymore.
This is not matcha.
Yeah. Fair enough.
Ugh,
I like
matcha tea's
I like
gross.
matcha though.
I do
It
not.
depends on the matcha.
Yeah,
But either way, yeah.
no, I'm fine.
I mean, you're right though. It's like, I don't know. At a certain point,
So from my readings of just philosophy of law, is like there's no real reason for anyone to listen to laws when it's a small group, but when you're in a society, there is there are laws to guide behavior for how you should act in the society. So like speed limits and things like that to protect other people from other people. But like when you get to the small things, law just becomes less and less thing, because when someone's an asshole and you're a small group, you just kill them
well,
and then you just move on.
yeah. Well, I mean, and that's
And,
oftentimes how like these older sort of societies worked though, right?
yeah,
Like like until what was it like? God, I'm trying to find it. Until about like 3500 BCE, right?
Yeah.
There really wasn't any sort of legal system, and then
Right.
it took another 1,000 years for there to be a written legal system because everything was like passed down from elder to elder to
Hmm.
to son to child, basically. Like
Yeah.
just we don't murder people in our tribe. We don't steal from them. You have to have some form of job, and
Hmm.
intrinsically those things really haven't changed so much since like 3500 BC.
Yeah.
You know what I'm
I mean, the only thing that's really changed now is society's just getting bigger and there's more societies. So like if you just take international like philosophy of international law, where there's no such thing as philosophy of international law. There's stuff written down, but like there's nothing stopping America than just sending over the entire army
There's
to whatever
no
country and then
governing
just
force.
yeah, that's the thing with any kind of law is like you have to have something that
And
is
enforcement. Yeah,
patrolling. Yeah, you have to enforce the laws, and if no one's enforcing it, then you actually don't have a law.
right.
Just like when you look at our society now, where you see a bunch of rich people that are just getting away with a bunch of
Uh-huh.
stuff. They're we don't have a law for people that are rich.
No.
They just can do whatever they want. And then there is a facade of like, oh, okay, this person's going to trial. We'll see if anything comes with that. But they just have to like go through the motions of that facade so people think that there's a law in place.
Yeah. It's a little bit discouraging, I guess is the right word. Because it's like here I am making exactly the national average for my society. Meanwhile, Elon
Yeah.
Musk is like, oh well, Daddy gave me a bunch of money, and you know, um, I'm gonna just open a car factory. Might not know anything about
Yeah.
cars, but then you're making money off of the backs of everybody else who's there, right? It's not like
Hmm.
Elon Musk was out there with every car just assembling the damn thing. You know what I'm saying?
No.
He's just the charismatic part. He's the
Hmm.
salesperson. He is the person who is like, well, if you don't like it, then fuck you. I'll find somebody else who does. I'll find somebody else who I
Yeah.
can manipulate to. You see my point?
Yeah. We have there are laws to guide behavior in our society that are fine. There are also laws that just don't matter. Like for example, like if we just like look at it at a very small scale, the handicap parking spot where there's a fine for $250. I mean, I'm like, all right, I don't want to pay $250, so I'm not going to park there. But if I had, fuck you money, I'd be like, I don't care. I'll just pay $250 to get this sweet parking spot.
Yeah, it's
So
really
if you have
just the
enough
price of
money,
admission anywhere you go.
yeah, at a certain point, if you have enough money, you can bypass a lot of laws that are set to guide behavior,
Right,
and that's not fair.
right.
They're basically laws are for uh, low income people or people that actually like have the average salary. Same with goes with there's been a lot of discussion about the bailout system actually, where the bailout system is not fair because people are sitting in jail awaiting trial. But we also have this idea that we're innocent until proven guilty, but we can't be proven innocent or guilty for 8 months, so we just sit in jail. So we actually don't have a freedom, and we can pay a bailout and of like X amount of money, but we can't because we're low income or we are or maybe we're just at that average where we're just like we can't justify spending $10,000 to do this thing, even though we're innocent. We still have that thing because our system is just in place. We're like, okay, well, here's an asshole police officer that found evidence that maybe isn't true or something like that. But there have been lots of people in prison or in jails that are just wrongly there, but they just have to wait their day and see what happens because they can't afford that bailout. But if you're rich, you can just bail them
Well,
out,
and the worst part
even
is,
if it's like,
well, go ahead,
yeah.
but I got a counterpoint.
So
But
okay, but yeah, even if you're rich, you can just afford that bailout. So that bailout thing is there to protect people from the people that are bad, but it's also on almost like this unethical thing where it's mostly targeting people of low income when they should be presumed innocent until proven guilty.
well, and I'd agree with that. But
Yeah,
usually in like a court system sort of thing, right? You
yeah,
get arraigned, right? You have your trial, or at least the arraignment
yeah,
trial, and then they say, yeah, well, they got enough proof here, so like your ass is going to jail, but like you know you got $5,000 to bail yourself out. That's cool. Like just know
but
you'll not get that money back until you get out. But then you get into the idea
yeah,
of bail bondsmen, and even in Trump's most recent case, right? Which I know this isn't about Trump, but even he used a bail
mhm,
bondsman, and a lot of people were just speculating. Oh no, that's just blah blah blah. He's got enough money for it, and he probably does have enough money for his
mhm.
bail, right? But other people were like, "Why would you?" It's just what you do. You just get a bail bondsman to pay it, and then you pay the percentage off because the bail bondsman is going to make sure that that paperwork is like good down to a T.
Right.
And it's like they're not a lawyer. This is just a fucked up
No.
system. It's basically like
Yeah.
we're gonna make sure you come back for your money, but it's like, man, like $5,000. If I killed somebody and my bail is
Mhm.
$5,000, and I actually killed them, and they have the proof to convict me, I'm probably still
Yeah.
bolting, and that $5,000 is probably still just forfeit. You know what I'm saying?
That's another thing that's weird about the bailout system is like, yeah, maybe I am innocent or maybe I did do it, but they're also giving me a bailout system.
Mm-hmm.
So why are they, if there's enough evidence to put me in jail because of the thing I did, why are they giving me a bailout?
Mm-hmm.
that that makes no sense to me either. But like, if there's enough evidence to even put me in jail for 9 months to wait my day, like just don't offer a bailout
I mean,
if there's
and there
enough
are
evidence.
procedures to expedite your trial. Like,
Oh
you know
yeah,
what I'm
there are.
saying? Like, there are laws in place like that. If you feel like you just want to get this done and over with, like,
Hmm.
I don't
I
know.
mean, we have a right to a speedy trial,
Yeah,
but sometimes there's just too many people that also have that right to a speedy trial. So maybe we should just have a thing where you get like the Disney VIP pass where you can cut in line.
I mean, I like the idea of like Disney just gets shut down, Disneyland or Disney World, and we just
Yeah.
everybody who needs to pay bail, they pay bail and they just end up there, and they have the ride of their life for like 9 months. They're like, this cotton candy's great, and then if they're guilty, then they have to. I don't know.
It's also weird because like the tax people are paying for the peace people to sit in jail for their waiting for their day. So let's just let them out, and they have house arrest.
Mm-hmm.
So now they don't have. Now we're just paying police officers to just kind of like enforce the law that they're already supposed to be enforcing anyway,
Mm-hmm.
and it's cheaper, it's more efficient, and we don't have like, you know, half of our population in jails because of a faulty jail system.
Well, that's fair.
It's not half of our population, but
I
it's like
understood
what,
where you were going with that.
12% of our population is in jail.
I didn't know it was that high. I thought it was much lower than that.
Oh well.
Current population in jail. I'm just
Thanks, ChatGPT, for sponsoring this episode.
about 0.7 of the United States is currently in federal or state prison or local jail.
0.7.
That's what prisonpolicy.org says, and I trust them with all my news, really.
I feel like 0.7% is not an accurate percentage of people that are incarcerated.
I have no idea. That's just what.
I thought it was like I thought it was less than 12 but higher than 5.
I'm looking at other statistics. It's just hard because they keep going from the percentage. They keep basing it off the current percentage. So they're like, it's a 1% increase from
Yeah.
that 1%. And it's like, okay, so what? At a certain
Yeah.
point, you can just skew statistics so much from that. A
Right.
26
Population of US.
a 26% decline from mid-year 2019 to mid-year 2020. It's like 166 per 100,000. It's hard to find the statistics. It's like they're intentionally skewing it.
Yeah, what I found a thing that was like what percentage of US has been to prison, and this was like 3% of the population has been to prison. But
According to the ACLU, since 1970, our incarcerated population has increased by 500%.
yeah,
I don't know if our population has increased in, if our population has increased 500% in comparison. I have no idea. Maybe we're just becoming more corrupt. I don't know, but it really only affects that 1% that we constantly talk about. Oh wait, that's a different 1%,
Yeah.
isn't it? Well, some of it's the same 1%. Wouldn't it suck to be part of both 1%?
yeah,
No. But either way, back to the idea of bail, right? It's like
Yeah.
if you have enough evidence to convict somebody, right? And that evidence is heard out by a judge, like,
hmm
do you deserve to just pay $5,000 to pass go for the next 6 months, 9 months? All that for an ankle
Right.
monitor, by the way, because they still monitor them in some way. So
Yeah.
my assumption is they do it through ankle monitors, but I have no clue.
And they basically just make it impossible for them to leave the United States. But I feel like if you have a private jet, it's a lot easier to leave the US when
Oh, agreed.
you get a bailout.
Agreed. And like, your ride shows up, you cut that ankle monitor and you go. Like,
Yeah.
it doesn't seem that hard. Even if you just go into hiding, by the way, that still doesn't seem that hard. Cuz like, I don't know. I mean, I've read stories. I mean, you listen to Crime After Crime, right? The story
Mhm.
about the guy who he escaped from a prison and then like he just kind of hid down low and like I think it was he would enter through a Toys R Us and go into the Circuit City next door and live there
Yeah.
and like he did that for like a year or something like that until he
Mhm.
found a girlfriend and then like
Yeah.
then he just kind of bolted or tried to bolt, right? But then his
Yeah.
girlfriend called him back and then he ended up back in prison. It's like that guy managed to do it and other people have managed to do similar things, right? It's just the method and the resources that you have. If you have more resources available to you, whether those resources are money or influential people or what the fuck ever, right? Then
Mhm.
you have a better chance of dodging bail. But nonetheless, it just seems like a money grab at a certain point.
Yeah.
It's not even one that the government gets any real money for. I mean, if somebody skips out on their court date, yeah, the government gets it. But
Mhm.
it just kind of seems like it seems wrong on a lot of. I never really thought about this, but it seems
Yeah.
wrong on a lot of levels.
Yeah, and it seems like what's the point? If law's there to guide behavior, and that's what the law is there for, and it's guiding their behavior in such a way where they can now basically get away with whatever they were doing before. They'll just try and do it in such a way where they don't get caught next time. And that's how a lot of our law is. It seems like we're not really rehabilitating people in prison.
Oh, we're
We're
definitely
just
not.
we're just punishing them and keeping them in there. So when they do get out,
Yeah.
they'll either one make the choice for themselves to change, or two do the exact same thing they're doing but try and do it better so they don't get caught again. So it's not guiding behavior.
Which is so
If just
funny.
because I say don't do this doesn't mean it's there's nothing physically preventing anyone to not do it. You can speed. There's nothing preventing me from speeding other than there's a cop up there. Maybe I shouldn't speed. But if there's no cop
Well,
there, then there's no one
I know there's
preventing me from speeding.
I know there's a philosophical argument for this, but I don't remember what it is. The idea that you're speeding, right? And nobody knows, right? But in your mind, there might be a cop up ahead.
Yeah.
I don't remember what the fuck that argument is, but either way,
It's it is I know what it is. I don't know what the proper name for it is, but I call it the luck-based law, where you're basically it's a crime that you're doing where there's
where nobody's necessarily getting hurt,
yeah, but it's
still a
based
crime.
off luck. Something could happen.
But
So if you're like, I think of it for like drunk driving. Like if you're drunk driving on a deserted road and no one's around, it's not illegal because no one cares. But as soon as someone cares, that's when it becomes illegal because someone's actually there to be there. And that's how I think like a lot of law is. It's only illegal until someone cares or until someone notices. Other than that, it's not illegal because no one's there to enforce it.
no, I
And
totally
that kind of
get
just
that.
goes back to enforcing it.
So
Because you can just drive drunk every day if you live in the farm area.
sure,
Only thing you're going to hit is a cow
sure.
or a deer. And at that point, you just kind of wait it out, sober up, and then just call a tow truck and be like, oh, yeah, I just hit this thing.
I was unconscious for 24 hours.
Yeah.
So, okay, so drunk driving, that's a good example, right? Drunk driving when nobody's
Mhm.
around on a back road where nobody cares, and the only thing that you're going to hurt is your car, your property, and maybe a ditch, right?
Or a deer, and deer have feelings.
I'm sorry for being so insensitive. So how do we feel about
It's
like
fine.
let's say that you got you're drunk, right? And you drove your horse. Do you drive horses? No, you definitely don't drive horses.
Yeah, I think you do.
You definitely ride
Yeah.
horses. But you ride your
I
horse.
think you jockey a horse.
You're in Indiana, right? And you're on a horse, right? And you're going above 10 miles per hour while drunk. Is there anything insanely unethical about that? You're going 11 miles per hour, maybe 12.
Yeah.
Is there anything unethical
Why are we on a
about that?
horse?
Because in Indiana, that's illegal to drive or to ride a horse above 10 miles per hour.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So,
Okay.
yeah.
Wait.
It's due to high-speed
you-
horse races back in the day, but
Oh.
yeah, I don't know anything about that. I just started looking up like those stupidly insane laws where people like,
Yeah.
it's like, you know, but there's nothing unethical about that. Riding a horse at like 12
No.
miles per hour, even if you're drunk, like what damage are you going to do? But somebody cared enough back then
Yeah.
due to high-speed horse races back in the day, right? And in Iowa, you can't throw a brick onto a highway, which that just seems like common
Makes
sense.
sense.
Yeah, because like,
Yeah.
you know,
Makes sense.
yeah, it's like tire screeching is banned in Kansas. Which, like, why are you driving that fast? Like, why do you need to accelerate that fast?
Well, you have to be cool and accelerate that fast.
I like to think that there's a murderer behind you who's out on bail that like you're running away from. Screech those tires.
Yeah, but he made bail though, so now he's free to go.
Yeah.
He can do whatever he wants.
Ooh, this is a good one. So in Kentucky, a woman cannot marry the same man 4 times.
Well, that seems weird.
Well, technically, it's you can't
Why?
marry the same man more than 3 times, which is different, but simultaneously, you're not going to marry a 3.5 the same man 3.5 times. You're not going to do that. So
No.
in this argument, it's the same thing, but it's like it's just weird how they
But
word some
you can't
laws
make a law
sometimes.
to make it. Yeah, and you can't make a law that says you can't divorce someone
Yeah.
because that's impeding on someone's freedom. But also the idea of like saying you can't marry someone 4 times, that means you would have had to divorce them 3 times.
And at that point, you would have thought that, like, you know what I'm saying? You would have thought you would have learned your lesson at that point.
Yeah, at that point, your girlfriends are supposed to be like, "Girl, you can't do that."
Oh man. So Aaron, I got bad news for you.
Oh,
In Louisiana, it's illegal to send a surprise pizza. There's a $500 fine involved in the Pelican State.
that's weird.
It's actually considered
There's a
harassment.
lot of laws that are
Yeah,
there to
but
guide some weird behavior.
well, and my point is this: let's go back to those caveman times where I'm one
Mhm.
person entering into a tribe of 8, and you guys are just like, man, like you just have to contribute and not fuck around, and don't kill anybody, and don't sleep with that guy's wife. Like,
Yeah.
common sense behaviors. Do unto others as you do to you. The golden rule, right?
And I want free pizza.
Well, I mean, you can't have it in Louisiana. So,
All
can you imagine if that liability fell on the delivery driver? And I wouldn't be
man,
surprised.
that'd be crazy.
I wouldn't be surprised if it did. I mean, it doesn't because it says harassment here, and harassment in this instance. But either way, they're not thinking like, okay, so we're a tribe of 9 now. If somebody sends us a pizza, we're gonna kill them. You know what I'm saying? Like these are nonsensical.
Maybe they
things
do. Yeah,
that-
it is.
to that tribe.
Those laws don't really like. There are some laws just don't make sense because they're just trying to control people in such a way that
They're guiding
Why-
behavior too much. They're micromanaging too
Yeah.
much, and finding that defining line between micromanaging too much and
Mhm.
micromanaging the right amount, that can be tricky. I can get that. As an example, I wouldn't
Yeah.
want somebody outside my house like for longer than 4 hours just pacing back and forth. But I'm also likely
Right.
to handle that myself, but that's likely to come with some sort of like altercation. I go outside and I'm like, dude, what are you doing? Just like pacing back and forth my lawn like that for 4 hours. Well, I don't know. I was debating on coming in. Well, no, you're not coming in. I will beat your ass out here. You know what I'm saying? Some laws like that, they make sense. But then you have
Why don't
other
you wanna make
laws
friends?
like this where somebody apparently sent a pizza illegally and somebody got offended, right? And no, this one can't be real. I gotta read this. This one can't be real.
I mean, there are certain laws. Like, let's just take sex work for example. I mean, it's not illegal to have sex, and it's not illegal to buy goods and services, but it's illegal to buy sex that's a good and service.
Yeah. And the
So
weirdest
why?
thing is that's like the world's oldest occupation, by the way.
Yeah.
So like,
And look at Trump. He paid for a porn star.
yeah, and nobody cared. It just made
Yeah.
it look bad.
Kinda. Some people don't think that looks bad though. So why is it
Why is
that
it illegal for some people who are like, you know, let's say the 62-year-old man who like has been divorced twice and is like, I just want something on the side, a little bit of loving. And somebody's like, well, I'll do that for $500. Like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Why is that?
Why is it illegal in Reno?
I thought in Reno it was legal. Oh, that's what you
It
just
is.
said.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, it's
Okay.
legal in
I
Reno, but
misunderstood. I took
in
that
other
backwards.
in other places it's illegal. But like, I don't know, maybe they're just trying to protect people, but also people have their own right to do what they want.
Yeah. Well,
Like,
in Maine, in the town of South Berwick, it's illegal to park in front of a Dunkin' Donuts.
how do you go into Dunkin'
I
Donuts
have
though?
no idea. That's what I was just wondering.
That's not,
It was
uh,
the law was enacted because the coffee and donut chain is a hot spot and the parking lot can turn into a mega traffic jam, which from any sort of standpoint when it comes to making a law, that one doesn't even make
yeah.
sense. We are so busy with business that we can't handle all of the business. So we need a law passed. You see what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah. Some laws are stupid,
but then other ones like,
and maybe we shouldn't have laws
no, we
because
definitely
people can
should.
break them.
We
I
definitely should.
agree. But like, a lot of those laws, people had no idea that they were laws. So is it fair for people to get in trouble for doing any of those laws if it's not publicly available for people to have those laws
I mean, the
in
thing
place?
is, well, here's the weird thing. Here's how it was explained to me. Right, you're at this point in this day and age, you're able to figure out what laws apply to you. Right, no matter
Yeah.
what state you live in, there is some sort of resource for you to be able to figure those things out. Do you know that thing that you never learned in high school about how to navigate the world?
Yeah.
Which is that nobody really ever told you how to access your local, state, and federal laws.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, anybody can do it. It's not,
True.
it's not hard to do it, even. I mean, you have to have some sort of like ability to read and retain information and understand definitions for days because they'll define things completely different than Merriam Webster ever did. But you have access to those laws to be able to learn them, but who in their fucking right mind has like years to study these laws aside from lawyers? Who has that sort of time? Because like you get any sort of like the Ohio Revised Code, right? I think it would take
Mm-hmm.
somebody like fucking 5 years in order to be able to understand completely. Like this is just if they were trapped in an apartment alone with only the Ohio Revised Code to be able to read
Right.
that entire thing and understand and retain maybe 75% of it, maybe. It would take somebody probably like 5 years to do that because like there's so many pages. How
Yeah.
many pages is the Ohio Revised Code? It doesn't say. It doesn't say. Either way, it's huge because like if you go onto the website, which for anybody wondering, it's codes.ohio.gov/ohio-revised-codes. It's a lot of fucking pages, and most of it just has to do with property and
Right.
ownership. But
And that's kind of like where or why people even have laws or why they were invented anyway was because people wanted to be protected, wanted their property to be protected.
yeah, I mean, yeah,
So really, laws are just there to protect rich people from the people that make less than 60,000 a year.
I mean anymore. I mean, do you think Elon Musk knows like? Do you think that he knows all the laws that he violates? No, he just pays a fancy lawyer to do
Well, if he has a horse and he lives in Indiana, he should Google how fast can I go on my horse in Indiana.
Yeah, but
That's like the first thing I'm gonna have to do now
I think he lives
when I
in
buy a horse.
Texas.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
They don't have that law
he's
because
actually trying to start up a company town in Texas, by the way, which I was pretty sure company towns were illegal, but I don't think they're illegal in Texas.
oh god, I
Yeah.
have a lot of opinions on company towns.
I find them funny, but it's like only because it's such an obvious trap. Now, that said, like it's really not funny for a lot of people. Okay, so a lot of people who are listening to this podcast, they're not going to have an idea on what a company town is. Some will, but I mean, you and I know. I mean, I created an entire D&D side campaign based on this. That's going to take players like,
Yeah.
At least 2 sessions to break out of, but we're probably talking closer to 4. But why don't you go ahead and explain the idea of a company town? And I mean, I can chime in with pros and cons, or you just tell me when to chime in, or what. Just tell me when to chime
Why
in.
don't we stop here for now and talk about more of these topics in our next episode?
Oh man,
Because
it's
I
like you
just
thought
looked at
this
the
through.
clock and we've been recording for like
An hour.
100 and not 100, an hour and 30 minutes.
Yeah,
So
that's a good idea. Yeah,
yeah,
because neither of us really pay attention to time, but you finally started doing that. My time says that we've only been recording for 46 minutes, which is enough for a podcast.
yeah, basically it kind of is.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, so let's continue on with this philosophy of law discussion for part 2 ish. And
Discuss
yeah,
company towns and the ethics involved with megalomaniac.
and probably a lot of other,
Oh yeah, a bunch of side tangents every time.
yeah, a
Side
bunch of
tangents.
side tangents.
We
Yeah,
always go with the side tangents every time.
always side
Every
tangents.
time. I feel like our website should just say Ryan's on a side tangent right now.
That's what makes good content, though, is side tangents.
I mean, to some degree, the banter is nice.
I mean, at least people now know that laws are for guiding behavior.
No, and
But-
governments are supposed to be there for protecting the people. Supposed to be.
Yeah.
But as we can see, that went by the wayside.
Yeah. So tune in next time so we go on more tangents about philosophy of law.
And where Ryan drinks even more than the last time.